Greetings everyone, I am Dimitrik and welcome to today's episode of Fryderykraft, where we are standing atop the spire of the Church of Matrick Patrick, where we are overlooking the neighborhood of Glessing, where we have done some immense amount of construction in the previous episode. Prior to several weeks ago, everything north of the church did not exist, so I am quite proud of the progress we have gotten done. Now, today's episode, we will be shifting our focus to a different area of the city, more precisely the area around the train station. So let us make our way down and going across the bridge and then through our gates. Here we have the Pensworth Gate, one of the city's greatest icons. We arrive at Station Square in the neighborhood of Pensworth. Now, Pensworth Station is currently the only station in the city so far. I do plan to open another, which won't be coming very soon, but right now, this is the only station to the city, and walking out here, this is the first impression everyone coming into the city has. Now, it does look very lovely, but it could be a little bit better. Now, over here is the street of High Pensworth, which is the High Street of Pensworth. Now, this is supposed to be a grand shopping street, except half of it isn't even here. So, the first thing I will be doing in this episode is I will be taking it upon myself to build up this left side of the street. I guess it would be my right for the character. Well, I guess this is the just the south side of the street. The side with nothing on it, I will begin construction. So what I have planned is this first building right here, I will be making out of oak. And similar to this one, it'll have some oak and some granite. It will be rather tall and have these nice arched windows, I think, and some columns going up. And I think it will be a lovely addition to the city. So I will get construction on that building right away. And now we may take a lovely view of our first building we have built on this street, as it very nicely frames the city hall in the background. So here is the side view, has this nice little arched window right here with some columns going up, and if we take a step back you can see that there is a dome up there. So if we go onto the street and take a nice view from the front, you can see that I have something new that I have done is this is one of the few buildings in the city which I have put double layer windows, as in I have 2 layers before the glass so I could get some extra details, so I can make some mullions and muntins and other fancy terminology which I pretend to know the meaning of, which adds some nice detail to the windows. And if you take a step back, it has, you see all the framing. It looks very nice. We do have some circular windows on the side, and I really do like how these nice big arched windows turned out, and I will be using this detailing technique in future builds. Going further up, we arrive at this section where we have some columns, and I think that this building would serve as a very good hotel building, as it is right next to the train station, so you can arrive and immediately walk out and come to the place that you're staying at when you're visiting the city. And finally, at the top layer, we have 2 domes on both sides and this nice lovely gable in the middle. Now, I forgot to talk about this before, but the reason I would like to be building in this area in this episode is that I have a bit of a tradition on November doing some work near the train station. So in November of 2022, I built the train station. That wasn't on camera, that was before I was uploading videos, but that was when it was built, and the following year I did the interior to the train station and finally moved our portal, which was standing out here, which used to be a little grass patch with a portal, and I don't even think that the backs of these buildings were even done yet, so it was rather ugly. But I moved the portal from outside into the train station where it will be housed. I do plan to make a larger train station further over there, I believe, which will house the portal, but this is just a temporary place to house it for now. But that was also in November, and I didn't really do anything in November of last year in this area, but I do associate this area of the town with this particular time of the year, so I would like to continue that. And before we build our next building over here, there is one small thing I forgot to do, which is filling all of this in, and which was made it a little bit more difficult to build, especially the backside, which I did do and is actually on a diagonal. So if you are at the train station, you'll be able to see the back of this building. Probably would not want to stay inside this hotel as it would get rather loud. But I do have some materials gathered up for me to fill in this area so that we have a little bit of land reclamation and some area to work with. So I will go ahead and fill in this area with dirt and come back when that is completed. Dirt has been placed, and you can see that the grass has started to grow on the land we have just reclaimed. So the next building I will be building is laid out right here with these blocks. So what I plan to have is this one will be more of a granite or brick colored building, such as the one behind me, and it will be around a similar height to the one we just built. So what I plan to have is there will be two sections on the side, as you can see over here and over here. These sections will be rather tall with a nice little gable at the top, and in the middle we will have some smaller windows with some columns similar to this building right here. And I think it will be a very nice addition. And also on the sides with the gables, I do plan to have some domes up there. I don't know if you'll be able to see from the street level, but perhaps standing over here you'll be able to get a better view of the details. So I will get to constructing that and come back when that is completed. And now, I have just built what I believe to be one of the most magnificent builds in the entire city so far. So here we can have a look at all of its grandeur. Now, it is a bit of a pity that I am unable to grasp the entire of its opulence in one frame, but we will be able to manage. So here we have our lovely new building going all the way to the street. It's very tall, and so tall that I had to climb up to this roof to see all of it. So taking a look at this building, we'll start from the top and then go to the bottom. So up at the top, we have these two very nice gables on both sides with these sort of domes behind them. And as you can see, we have this cresting behind where I have used some iron bars and some candles where I have intertwined the iron bars with the candles to create this spiked effect. And over here we have some nice dormers to let some natural light into the upper layers. Now, going a bit down, we have this middle layer where we have some columns and some coins on the side right here, adding nice little bit of depth and detail, which is very simple with only two blocks being used, that being granite and bricks. Going further down, we have this nice grand base where we have not just one, but two layers of retail space, so that whoever occupies this building, yes, I do know it is not quite furnished yet, so whoever will occupy this building in the future may use these bottom two floors for whatever commercial activity, and the upper floors may be used for probably a hotel or apartments for the top 1%, as this is a very nice location, or maybe the noise from the train viaduct behind them will bring the prices a little bit down, but I am very proud of this building right here, and it is a little bit sad that you cannot see all of the details that I have put in, but it still is a very lovely building. And coming into this alleyway, you can have a very nice little reveal of this large street right here. Anyways, now for the next building. We have one more spot here for another building, as I plan for there to be some street right here. So this will be a corner building similar to this one. And speaking of similar to this one, the materials we'll be using will be another sort of white Portland stone building similar to this one. I have said similar to this one way too many times so far. Hello. None of this is currently of interest to me, so I will be moving back onto what I was onto before. So this building right here will be nice white building, and I have spent way too many emeralds getting all of this quartz. You may not know this, but my emerald farm is currently broken, so I am on my emerald reserves, and each block of smooth quartz is one emerald, one block of quartz for one emerald from the stonemasons that live over there. So I did use about a chest full of emeralds just to get this. So that is besides the point. This is a building channel. So what I plan to do is there will be a nice grand white building, and one thing I plan for this building is there will be these nice windows that I have never actually tried before, where it will be around 5 blocks wide, but the window is split into 3 different sections, similar to, I guess, how a Chicago window would look. But this one will be a little bit more of like a classical feel, as that fits in more to the city. So I'll have this nice grand white corner building. I might make a turret or a big dome at the top, since this is right next to the city hall and we would like to keep this area rather grand and fancy. So I don't currently have that much of a plan, but I do want to incorporate that window style, so I will get to building and come back when that has been completed. And with our construction concluded, our street here is now complete. And taking a closer look at these windows I mentioned previously, we have this large section split into 3 with walls and trapdoors separating the segments. The trapdoors here to alter the size of the segments to make the one in the middle larger. And up at the top, we have these Diocletian windows, which are very similar to the windows on the lower layers, except I made it a little bit more arched. Coming down to the street level, we have these grand large windows so that pedestrians passing by may gaze into the store and peer at the merchandise being sold. Now, it was rather difficult to see from the angle before, but there is a dome on this building, which throughout the time on the server passing by will turn into a brilliant green, such as other examples found on buildings with copper detail, such as the skyscraper up there, as well as this famous shopping building right here. The front of this building also looks rather majestic, where we have this nice little bay window sticking out of the building, and once this area is filled in, we will be able to enjoy it better, as currently it is not a very viable walkway, but we do have some walls here to make this area protrude from the building, which I really enjoy, and we use some panes there to add some nice depth so that it's not completely flat if we used glass blocks. Now, in the past, corner builds were a bit of a vexation to me, as I could never quite get windows, and especially turrets, especially on an angle, right? And now I feel as if I have ascertained such skills, as this building turned out very nicely to me, and I'm actually very proud of this entire street because I sort of did a bit of a survival freehand where most of these were done in survival without any prior planning in creative mode. Might as well say that I have raw dogged these buildings. Except for this one, which I did plan out a little bit in creative, but I did take some creative liberties and improvised from the original design as there weren't columns, and this is a little bit taller than it was, and this side didn't exist in my creative plan. But now it is time for our final build in this episode. So before we conclude the video, I would like to finish off with one more building right here. I don't know why there's a sudden bit of lowered frame rate. I apologize for that. There is just something about this square which doesn't feel complete. This side doesn't feel nearly as grand as it should, so I plan to make a small brick Renaissance building similar to Pensworth Gate right here, which will be not a super massive building, but enough to create a sense of enclosure in this area so that it feels more square-like, I suppose. So I will get to building a nice small brick Renaissance era building with a nice gable and maybe even a dome to match the Pensworth Gate right there. I don't know what the purpose of this building will be yet, but I do have an idea on what I want to build. So one final build for this episode, and then we can conclude. And standing atop this balcony on the City Hall, we can see our new building at the end, at the square being perfectly framed by the buildings on this street. So if we come down here and walk towards the building, you can see that we have this nice, lovely neo-Renaissance brick building with a nice gable at the top, and coming closer, we can see that the signs on the corners are loading into view, adding some nice detailing. Unfortunately, we cannot see it from that far away, so we do have to get a bit close. So we have this nice steep roof with some cresting at the top. It looks very Dutch to me, or maybe even a Meiji era Japanese building built in a Western style. We have this nice textured with granite and brick, looking very nice. I just realized this building isn't textured at all, the Pensworth Gate, but it was built a long time ago. In fact, it might have been the third or fourth building I ever built in the city. Now this building, I don't quite have a use for it yet. It is very small, so we don't have that large of a floor plan to work with. Maybe it will be some sort of rail office or something of that sort, but I do really like it, and it does add some completion to the square, creating some enclosure. And over here, I do want to keep this a nice green area, so we have a little bit of a park in the old town. And any visitor who has just hopped off the train and exits the train station will be greeted with this nice, lovely, magnificent square in front of the station, being immediately greeted by the gate to the old town. And I am very proud of the work we have gotten done in this video. So I thank you all if you have made it this far, and be sure to like and maybe even leave a comment so that more people may see the lovely work we have gotten done. And I thank you for your viewership, and I will see you in the next episode. Farewell.